Hey everybody, welcome to TakeStock Live. Sam Evans with you. We are live on Facebook. It's just turned noon here. I hope you're doing well and happy and life is treating you okay. So just on the show here right now, what day is it today? Happy October, my favorite time of the year actually, October. Love this time of the year. By far the absolute best time of the year for me. I've always been a fan of October. My son's birthday, um, which is a really cool thing. I absolutely love that. My son, birthday in a couple of days. I love the fall coming, and usually around this time as well, we tend to get, I would say on here, like a little bit of a pickup in activity in the market. But with this year being an election year, probably going to be a little bit quieter as well. And that's one of the things I'd like to talk about on the show today as well. I would like to talk about, where the market's at, what we're looking at and so on as well. Some of the things I'd like to just give you is a little bit of a review. I mean, my partner in Stockability, Daniel Bustamante, just recently did a great article about this as well. And I thought this would be a great time to actually, talk about looking at, what is the market, where is the market at and so on as well. And to do that, I didn't want to do it alone. Obviously, you guys have worked with me before, Sam Evans. I'm the co-founder and the lead coach at Stockability, and obviously the main host of TakeStock Live here. But I wanted to bring on a guest today as well, and that's what I've got is a special guest for you today. Ranger Doug, he's a very active member of our community as well. Been doing really great story, and done some tremendous stuff in the markets as of late as well. And I thought, give Dan a break. And let's get Doug on the show to do a little bit of analysis with us as well and tell us his story. I wanted to make this about people. I don't want this to just be a show every single week where all we do is just talk about charts. I mean, why do people participate in the market? The markets are a fascinating thing, but what we also have to understand is, as fascinating as the markets are, we also want to make sure that we understand that people are what make the markets, and people's desire to invest and trade in the market and do the things that they actually do. For me, that's what makes it interesting. That is what completely, I feel, makes it more interesting than anything else, is the people on this as well. And I'm just managing a few different screens on here as well, seeing a few of the people coming into the room right now, Francis and Bob the bottle washer, just on the chat as well. I've got the chats coming up as we're speaking on here as well. And they're all familiar with Ranger Doug too, so I'm going to bring him in just a second. But I thought let's just talk about this week in the markets. I want to do a little bit of commentary first of all. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just kind of bring up my main screen right now, just take a little look at everything that I'm seeing on here. And I got to say to you right now, look, everything's flashing on my board right now. Everything's kind of like all going off, all happening on here. It looks a lot more kind of active than it's been, but man, choppy to say the least. I've been getting a lot of comments and questions, and you can always reach me at sam@stockability.com or support@stockability.com. Also, you can put your live comments on the feed right now. We are broadcasting live on Facebook, and just looking at the S&P 500 right now and where we're at, and I've been getting this a lot lately in the light of the election coming up, the last quarter of the year. And guys, what a crazy year this has actually been. I got to say, looking at all of this, and the way that the things are, and what is the outlook? I mean, let's just look at the last month on here. I'm going to just bring up the charts on here, take a little bit of a look at the longer term charts of the S&P 500 right now. And like last month, we had this fantastic month, okay, on the charts, where on August was what a powerful month that we had. But look, after putting in brand new highs, markets come back down. And right now we are just literally where we closed. We haven't really, pushed very much, from September being, August being a great month, September giving a lot of it back. And here we are in the first part of the month, right in the middle. I got to say, I'm not seeing a clear direction on these markets at the moment. This has been challenging conditions for me, definitely. And one of the things I've been trying to do is really get to the extremes. We are actually at key areas right now, key areas on here where I can tell you this right now, I wouldn't really want to be a buyer. And I think a great example of this, I wouldn't really want to be a seller either. One of my favorite charts to really give me an outlook every single week here are the weekly charts. And one of the things I'd love to just draw on here and just show you some of the key areas that I'm looking at right now. And if you've ever heard me on Trade and Merlin show, you'll know that I'm a big fan of kind of like looking at key areas of wholesale and retail price action on here. And what I can see is, we've got evidence of serious buyers, around this $320, $3,200 mark. where we had those highs of around 3,500, 3,600. And right now we're just in the middle, you know, and this is such an important area, I think, in play right now, the 3,400s on here, you know, and it's such an important area, you know, I think right now. And at the moment, I always try to look at the market from a perspective of wholesale and retail, understanding, hey, you know what, do I want to be a buyer? Do I want to be a seller? And to get into any positions right now, I'm just not seeing anything that's striking out to me at the moment. That's on the S&P. You're getting a slightly different story, I would say, on the NASDAQ. Let's go over to the NASDAQ and take a look on here and see. And see where we're at as well. I mean, the NASDAQ powering on. But again, actually, you know, while I'd say that's definitely the strongest and the most bullish of all the major stock indexes, I mean, right now we are seeing a little bit more of a steady climb in the market here with pushing higher highs and higher lows in the market. You know, again, we're coming up to some pretty important levels around 1,200 at the moment. And to be joining into this trend where we are at the moment doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I mean, if anything, this whole area around this 11,600 is definitely an area for me where I'd be seeing, you know, a lot more downside pushing on this market right now. I don't have really the desire to be jumping into anything. And again, when I look at here, clicking on the charts and I go and look at my good old weekly chart, I've got a very similar thing. Again, a lot of big buyers came in around the 10,000 to 10,500 mark. Ton of retail selling going on at the 12. And look, here we are, 11.5 floating in the middle. I typically call this the drift zone. You know, not a whole lot going on, not really a whole lot to talk about in that respect as well. So I'm going to be saying, you know, probably just keep playing my cards close to my chest on the index, not seeing overall a ton of great opportunity that really stands out to me in that respect on there as well. Indexes, yeah, and likewise, you know, with stocks, you know, this leads me to look at some of your big ones, you know, your Apples, your Amazons, your Facebooks, a lot of these markets kind of, you know, just drifting in the middle at the moment as well. You know, and again, you'll see on the major indexes as well. You look at Apple on the weekly charts. For me, you know, this equilibrium point right now that we're looking at here is around $120 a share. This is your equilibrium point. Again, you know, $100 being the major area here to the upside, the recent highs there. Here we are slap bang in the middle once again. Not an ideal place for an investor or a trader. You know, there is day-to-day opportunity in the markets, which you're going to see, you know, when I get my guest Doug on the show in just a second on here, but it's going to be outside of, I think, of the realm of equities. For me, the equity market has been a challenging market as of late. I'm going to be playing my cards very close to my chest for the rest of this week. I have no major outlook, but we will be doing your call, my put with Doug. There are opportunities out there. I mean, the gold market moves plenty. The currency markets move plenty. We've had some wonderful opportunities on some of these markets as of late as well. And I think, you know, broadening your horizons out, you know, to markets like, say, the pound versus the dollar. Great opportunities just as of late. Wonderful shorting opportunities what we're looking at in our trading room right here around the 130s mark as well. But even this in a little bit of a range, you know, but a lot safer to be holding overnight. So right now, pound dollar playing the 130 to the $2,700 mark. But that's 3 cents of movement. Great opportunity if you know how to handle it in the Forex market with very low risk if you want to hold that overnight as well. So I'm going to say, as we start talking about more asset classes here on TakeStock Live, brought to you by Stockability, one of the things I want to bring in is other asset classes as well. This is the Forex market, a wonderful place, I think, for somebody who wants a little bit more safety when they're looking at these, you know, markets and maybe not wanting to hold overnight. What you don't want to do is get caught on the wrong side of one of these major gaps as well. But with that said, this is just me looking at the market right now. And I would love to obviously start getting the opinion of somebody else as well. So, you know, what I thought it'd be really, really fun to do is, because I'm working with a whole group of students, you know, every single day in the markets as well. I thought it'd be really great to bring on a gentleman who I actually had the pleasure, you know, of working with. I'm going to go back maybe 2 or 3 years ago. We started working together when I met him, when I think he was fairly new to the market. And then I've had the pleasure of having, you know, interactions with him in previous organizations and now here at Stockability as well. I'm going to go and we fondly know him as Ranger Doug. And Doug's just on the line here as well. I'm actually going to make him my co-host on here. I'm actually going to ask him to start his video and bring him on the show right now as well. And Doug, can you hear me, my friend? Let's make sure there he is. Fantastic. So let's just go into the news bit. How are you, Doug? It's good to have you here, buddy.
Thank you so much for having me. I really, really appreciate it. I'm really excited to do this with you, man. I'm doing great today. Can't
Good. So
complain.
where are you? Where are you? Welcome to Take Stock Live. We'll get into all of the kind of, what got you to this point in the training. But first of all, for everybody, I'm in like obviously the Philadelphia region, about 30 miles outside of Philadelphia. Where are you, Doug?
I'm located just north of Austin in Cedar Park, Texas, in the suburbs with the picket fence type thing.
Nice, nice, nice. He's looking very well groomed today on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
for
you. I
making
appreciate
the
that.
effort as well. You do travel a lot, because now this is the crazy thing. Even though you're in Austin, Texas, which is actually the headquarters of Stockability, I actually saw you just a couple of days ago in
Yes.
Wildwood, New Jersey.
Wildwood.
What was the chances? Like, we had a short vacation, my family and I, and then we have this wonderful way of staying in touch and on the shows and that. And then it was amazing. Like, I literally see that Doug's checking in that he's going to be in Wildwood, New Jersey, and he literally, I looked at it, Doug, and it was 1.7 miles away where you were staying, and we were there as well. So we had a drive by, didn't we? Quick
Yeah, we
drive by.
did.
Drive by, man hug, and then off we were as well. But it's great. Just looking at the comments right now, Robert Pelgrim, Bob in the room was here as well. He said he's been killing it. I think he means about your trading, right? But you and
Grateful.
I'd love to talk about that. But right, Ranger Doug, where does it come from? Tell us about your background and what led you into getting into the world of trading and investing, buddy.
Sure, sure. So I was in the U.S. Army for about 8 years in special operations, and then as a ranger. And then when I got out, I moved to Austin, Texas, to help a buddy start a company. And growing up, my father was a buy and hold guy. He grew up during the Depression and everything, so that's just what he learned how to do. And he kind of taught me a little bit about it, but I never really learned from him. And as I got older, I got more and more interested about learning how to trade and about how to, learn how to fish, right? Especially in the markets, and just, how to grow my account and grow wealth and all of these things. And I have a cousin who joined Online Trading Academy about 4 years ago, and he called me up one day, 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. I was like, hey man, I think you should do this. And we started talking and everything. And that's when I met you.
You did. I was one of your instructors. Well, I think I was your first instructor,
you're my first
wasn't
one.
I?
Yeah.
Spent 3 days with you, and I remember you were very decisive about moving forward and doing it. I know you're a driven guy. You have to be with that background as well. And it's interesting that you mentioned as well that, your father had already had like a buy and hold background as well. And the market, I wrote an article about this recently. I'm assuming with your father coming from the back of the Great Depression era and then growing up and buying and holding, probably did pretty well as in his investments.
Yes.
But it's different, isn't it? Would it be fair to say, and I talk about this, that the market isn't the same as it was when your father was investing, and that maybe you need a different approach? How did you find that?
So, when he started investing back in the 50s, 60s, as he's getting out of college in the Navy, I mean, you even look at the charts from back then, there wasn't exactly a lot of volatility, and they sort of slowly climbed up. But you look at it now, and it whips. It whips, especially from, the dot-com bust all the way through 2008 with the real estate bubble, and then coming into now. I mean, those whips are massive. And having an average holding price, let's say, of Apple before the split at 400 versus owning Apple back, 30 years ago at 20, for instance. You know what I mean? Like your room for profitability without buying the dip is very limited, I would imagine. And it's also, in my experience, limited experience, seems to be more risky. I'm starting to get into options and things like that, but so
Let's take a look at what you're just talking about there, Doug, actually, because, and you can definitely say that how things have changed. I'll just bring up a chart right now and show the guys as well so they can actually see that. Maybe you can see this as well, Doug, on the screen.
Yes, sir.
So, I'm actually looking at the Dow Jones here. So, your father, what area did you say? What was it?
He started trading in the 50s and 60s all the way through.
Wow. All right. So let's go take a look at this. Okay. Let's just go actually and actually take a look at that for just a second. The 50s and the 60s, right? So let's just zoom my chart out a little bit. I need to really go out there. I need to add a few more years on that. So let's add a little bit more data on this. So I think I'm going to need to go back a little bit further. Yeah, I've got the maximum amount of data on here on the chart right now that I can have on this. But let's even say that, if I go back, even to the 70s, just look at the market, how it was at that particular time. He would have probably sat through something like this as well, right? So he would have been heavily involved probably during the big crash of 1987. Okay, that you're seeing here as well. It looked scary, but when you look at where we are just today. You know, we look at the market today, it's a blip. You know, this little sell off here, it's a blip. And could you comfortably ride that storm out and enjoy? I mean, absolutely. But then when you see the kind of movements we get today, I mean, look, just take a look at what happened, you know, earlier this year during the COVID era, that the sell off that we had, so much more exaggerated. That sell off was actually, you know, bigger during this early part. This is a monthly chart I'm looking at of the Dow Jones. This was a more dramatic sell off that we saw in literally 1 month than we did in the 1.5 years of the credit crunch. I mean, just to put that into perspective for a second there, you know, a completely different era. I guess while I'm talking to you about this, Doug, is it raises the question, do we need different tactics? Is the buy and hold just the way that most hardworking individuals today can go for their investments? Or do you think they need to be more hands-on and have a different approach to the markets?
You know, honestly, I feel that buy and hold, I mean, while it's hard to beat that year-over-year return, if you look at Amazon or so, I think you need to have different types of strategies. You know, you can have that 1 or 2 stocks or whatever that you want to hold and add on and lower your average holding price. But I think being able to learn about support and resistance and the things that you all teach that that enable you to trade, make money, rinse and repeat day in, day out is much more viable with the amount of whips and everything going on, the uncertainty of the economy, of the world economy, of, you know, viruses and everything else. I think it's better to have different strategies that you can implement for what's presenting itself at that current time. And that's something I'm grateful for about learning, because only having, you know, one punch that you're really good at doesn't necessarily help you in an MMA fight, right? So I'm only going to jab, man. I'm only going to jab. So
it reminds me of my days, you know, Doug, when I was, you know, myself, I was literally, you know, my parents, I was very small and timid as a kid, and my parents got me into boxing at a very young age. And, you know, there wasn't a lot of meat on these bones back then, and it was just jab, 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 but it only got me as far as it did, you know, and I had to have more. There had to be a little bit more in the tank as well. I think there is still a place for the buy and hold investing, wouldn't you agree? But I think it requires a little bit more management, and, you know, diversification through other assets as well would be critical, right?
Right.
So let me ask you this, you know, your journey with trading, you started to get on what today, let's talk about it, and then we can get into like where you've come to and where you've come from. So what today, like on a typical kind of Doug day in the market, how many hours are you spending in front of the screen, would you say? You know, because what I'd like to do is I'd like to look at obviously what your day-to-day routines, like what kind of markets you look at. And kindly, you've also said you're happy to share a few results that you've had as well, which would be great. But then I want also, for anyone who's new at watching this as well, you know, hey, you know, can I do this? What does it look like for me as well? So firstly, tell me a little bit about your day-to-day routine, Doug.
So I wake up at about 6:30 in the morning, and I start going through the overnight charts, look at where the London Open on all charts was at. I look at 8:30, so major market opens for Globex, just to get a feel of how order flow is going, price action. I just look at Forex Factory for my news reports, because I've made the mistake early on about not really caring, and it burned me. So that's one of my rules. Funny story about rules, if you don't mind if I digress.
Please do. Take as long as you need.
I like adrenaline. You know, I did what I did in the Army and everything, and so I found that I'm a rule breaker. But if I say it's a law, then I tend to follow it more than if it's a rule. So on my trading plan, I changed the word from rule to law, and I've done much better ever since I changed the verbiage. So it's just kind of a funny psychological thing for me to like just change one word, and I was like, oh, I better obey the law. Like,
I mean, it is the power. And you mentioned psychology there. I mean, I've been teaching, I've probably personally taught over 60,000 people now in my career. And I've always said, when you really kind of get a handle on a system, investing, trading, whatever you want to call it, money management, business, it all comes down to psychology. I mean, you said you've been a business owner as well, right? I'm sure during the times of those business owners, there's shaky ground when you're like, oh my God, is this really going to work? Am I doing the right thing? And, you know, there's that amazing fact that, you know, my partners always said, you know, 80 to 90% of businesses that start up actually fail. But is it fair to argue that a lot of the times it fails because people quit? You know, people don't get through that barrier when really they're onto that gold mine. It's like they're digging, and they're literally what they're digging for is just under the surface, but they quit too soon. Have you had those times in businesses? Have you had those times, you know, in your own trading and investing as well? And that's why, you know, to help you get around these rules. What's your take on that?
I think if you don't have those things, I think you can't come out the other side a stronger person no matter what it is, whether it's lifting weights or being a parent or, you know, in a relationship, whatever it may be. There are always those peaks and troughs, and there's always those, you know what I mean? And I think part of that path is those barriers and learning about yourself and finding out about that grit and refining your process. And, you know, for me and how I am, that's life, and that's part of trading, and that's really part of everything, you know. And I think if it was too easy, I probably wouldn't want to do it anyways. You know, I mean, like, I have twin daughters, and you know, they have their ups and downs, 2s, 3s, 4s, and it's, you know, the greats are the greats, you know what I mean? And it makes the more trying times and everything that much better, because, you know, you're working towards something that's valuable, that's bettering yourself and those around you. And to me, that's the goal. And I mean, yeah, so I think if it's too easy, I think it's taken for granted. At least that's in my experience. And I do that if it's too easy. And if I, you know, find that I'm not learning anything about myself or driving to push myself to be better or to learn more and understand and execute better, then I don't know, I kind of get bored with it. And that's one thing I love about trading in general, is because every day is something different. It has a different circumstance. The market is what the market is at that particular point in time. And, you know, what are you going to do? You know, and you get to express yourself and place your rules on it, just like in life. Like, these are the rules I'm going to live by. And you can either, you know, use a poker term, you can live and die on the river, you know. So it's, you know, it's very creative in that way. And you know, I've learned a lot about myself through it. And one of those things is it needs to be law and not rules. So.
Absolutely. I mean, it is. I try to live in this thing of, you know nothing, right? You never know what's going to happen next. You never do, you know. And the minute I think you make an assumption about, hey, the market's going to do this or the market's going to do that, you know, you might as well quit right then as well. Obviously, though, you've been through, like, you know, you've been through extensive training in your army days. Obviously, you know, you're working in the forces and so on. You're a ranger, as you said, you know, on this, and, you know, you know what training is like as well. You know, you've been through education in that. You've obviously, as well, when we met, you've been through education, you know, in what you've done right now. How much would you say with the education is something that, you know, you've done it, did you take and say, hey, you know, this is really powerful, and then make it, like, I guess the question would be, as an instructor, as somebody who's taught a lot of people, my goal is to give people a solid structure and rules, which I think everybody needs. Okay. You know, we do. How important then is it to take ownership of what's being taught, like to find your own way? Because I've always found, you know, just being very candid with the audience right now, as I've taught over the years, you know, there's this fine line between, hey, just do what I tell you to do, but I want them to find their own way, the student, right? I want them to have the mixture of both. I think there's a happy medium for me of, hey, go do what I tell you to do for now, and then find your own way. And then, you know, it's almost like, you know, you'll find your style, right? It's like learning the rules of the game, then finding out what best position. How much is that something that you've been through yourself, Doug, you know, in your trading journey so far?
That's a great question, Sam. Yeah, when I first started off, I tried very hard to mimic what other people do. And I think as experienced traders and in general, like when I was on a range teaching other people how to shoot, I've been doing it for so long that I sometimes forget what I know by muscle memory and how to express that, right? Like there's that feeling you get, or just knowing the windage. And I think that's kind of similar in trading and learning trading too, that you're being taught a certain system, but there's always that je ne sais quoi that somebody has a lot of experience, that it just has to come from time behind a chart, looking at it, sim trading, and doing that. It was hard for me to exactly mimic somebody else because I didn't feel comfortable doing it, because while I understood the mechanics behind it, I didn't understand the learning that went into this is why it was. I didn't walk through that fire to get to that point, right? Kind of like what we were talking about a second ago. Yeah. And so I had to learn who I am, which is very important, and especially in trading, more so than I already knew. But then also, how can I apply these tools, tips, tricks, and rules that I've learned from different various instructors, and how do I make it fit into what and who I am? You know, like it's very hard to, and it's been hard for me, and it's not everybody, but it was hard for me to fit who I am and how I like to trade into, let's say, a weekly hold. Right? Like that's not me. I'm a momentum guy. I like to set my areas, and I like to see the momentum hit, and then that's what I'm doing, you know. And I was messing around doing other systems that weren't necessarily momentum, on us, you know what I mean? And it was just, it took me a while to learn that. So
you almost have to take the knocks, don't you? I mean, experience, it's a funny thing, isn't it? It's
yeah,
like, yeah, you have to go through the bad to get to the good, you know, and I think that's why good things and bad things happen, because if you don't have the good things, you can't appreciate what is good, and if you don't have the bad things, you can't appreciate what's bad, so then you never really know the difference between
right.
the two. I mean, it is so much of it about is ownership, like you've said, you know, many times. And I think that, you know, once you get that, that is where the psychology of all of this comes. But, you know, rules, structure, everybody needs guidance. You know, you've had it too as well. So you said you kind of like the momentum plays as well. And I think that's a wonderful thing about these markets. You know, me, I try to embrace a little bit of everything. I always have. You know, I don't have one style that fits me. I would say as time's gone on, as I've got older, I don't like being in front of a screen as much. You know, I kind of like getting in, getting out, being done. But the market doesn't always do it as perfectly as that. That's just the way it is for you as well. But yeah, process as well. So today, what markets do you find, you know, are your go-tos, your bread and butters as well? Because I saw today you had a pretty good little result on the market. Tell me about some of your bread and butter markets, and I'll share with the group in just a second a little bit of a day in the life of Ranger Doug.
Sure. So I started off trading a lot of the indices, currency, futures, things like that. And over time, I whittled it all down to gold. I always traded gold. I trade metal markets. I'll trade gold, silver, and copper. But gold is my mainstay. I look at it every day, see what's going on. I'm in tune with it. And I've found that I've had much better results focusing on one market. And I learned that from you. You're like, this is what I'm going to do. And, you know, when we started, I was like, all right, what, 2 months ago, something like that. So I fully switched into it. I mean, I looked at it before, but seriously, my only focus is gold. I'll take a look at other stuff if it presents itself, setting alerts and things. But overall, I love trading that market. You know, I think we get along pretty fine. I know I'm projecting onto it, but you know, give me that. So
There's nothing
yeah,
wrong with that. I mean, and because you get to know the characteristics of something, and it
sure.
becomes easier to look at one thing. Like, I don't know if you know, probably in your journey of doing this, you've seen probably dozens of blogs and articles online, right, about people with, you know, 16 trading monitors in their office and all that. I mean, me, I like just the two. And people are like, why? I said, because I can't focus on all those different things at one time. I'm more of a try to be laser guided on one thing. So, you know, I think that finding that market, is it fair to say that you think, you know, something like gold and silver, what you're trading, you get into a rhythm and you find the rhythms and the characteristics of those
Sure.
markets as well?
Sure, I think that's imperative to success. You know, even with Dan and the stocks and everything, like you're looking at these things and you're starting to get into that rhythm and learning each individual market or whatever's character, and how they react to, you know, fundamentals, because it happens, right? Like what generally happens, or, you know, beyond the technical analysis side of the house. And I think what I'll show a little bit is just something that I've noticed that gold likes to do, and I've just been capitalizing on that over and over again, because I mean, high probability of the time it acts that way, and then okay, you know, there's only one scope on a rifle. You know what I mean? Like you're got to aim at one target and know where you're shooting at, and knowing all the little characteristics of what you're aiming at and getting all that in so you can make that shot. And it's the same thing as trading, you know.
And you use that analogy, great. But I mean, whether you know, people agree with the analogy or not, I've always actually said it in classrooms, you know, trading is more of a waiting game. Investing is a waiting game, waiting for the right time to get in and waiting for the thing to come to fruition, whether it's long term, short term, medium term, right? But you mentioned Agile, like you're looking down the scope, right? You've got to make sure the conditions are right. I think one of the problems that many people have is they jump in like John Rambo out the tree with a knife in their teeth, you know, attacking, you know, and it's like you just and then you just get taken out because everyone sees you coming, and then people jump into the market the same way. I think you have to be like a sniper, right, Doug, and wait for the right conditions and wait to pick your spots.
You
You know,
do,
that's
yeah. So I mean, and I'll jump the gun. I'm not going to lie and sit here and saying
of
I'm
course you're
perfect
human,
about it. Of
right?
course I jumped the gun. I'm me, you know. Like it happens, and some, you know. But it's cut way back, and it's become less when I do it. It doesn't hurt as much as it used to, and minimizing that risk and minimizing the pain on that, right? Like, what's my max pain that I'm willing to take, or, you know, like it makes my life much easier when I know I have a set condition going into the trade. So
Right, and that's back to it as well. You know, we all make mistakes, but the mistakes just become less painful, less costly. And I think if you're not making mistakes, you're not trying, you're not focusing. You know, I still get the nerves. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. When I've got like hundreds of people, I mean, the biggest trading rooms I've ever held have had over 1,000 people. And when everyone's listening to you and they're saying, "What's it gonna?" I'm like, "Please work, please work, please work," because your fragile ego wants it to work, but it doesn't always work, and you have to understand that. And I think finding that resolve, you know, this has been I said at the start of the show, this has been a challenging month in the equity markets. You know, I've found the Forex challenging, the whole thing. And then there's periods where you just can't do anything wrong. I mean, I've had months, you know, where it's just working out just fine. And then, you know, it goes the opposite way. You have to take the rough with the smooth. I've always said this, Doug, and I'd love to get your comments on this before I slide over. I think people love the idea, but don't want to accept the reality of what trading and investing can be.
100%. I think, you know, for me, I'm a perfectionist, and that might be a horrible thing to be as a trader. And I've had to learn that, you know, over a statistically large data set, right? Like if your system works and your process works, it's going to go against you. But over a large enough period of time and sample, does it work? And is it profitable? And just to trust that, because the markets are going to do what the markets are going to do. And, you know, just continue to do the next right thing and the same process over and over. And it'll all shake itself out in the end. I mean, earlier on in my trading career, like, you know, couldn't do anything right for 2 weeks, but I had a month straight of just nothing but wins, right? Or like, well, my process must have been wrong. It's like, no, that's just what's going on right now. It doesn't mean that you're doing something wrong. It's just the markets are being the markets, you know? And that was a hard pill to swallow because I'm a perfectionist. And so how do I take a step back and rely more on the process than what my, you know, this part's telling me, or even just, you know, that revenge trade that sometimes happens with, you know, when you're earlier on, like, well, I just lost $200, so I'm gonna try and revenge trade back when you switch your process up. And it's just, you know what I mean? You're chasing that,
Totally.
that, you know, that running down that hole.
I think people don't realize that the reason it works for the people who can make this work is because it doesn't actually work 100% of the time. That's the thing. You can spend time trying to figure out why it didn't work, but you know, it's like, well, it didn't work because it just wasn't meant to work, because if it worked all the time, there would be no zero-sum game and yada, yada, yada. You know, you get it. One final question before we go over to the results. I'd love to take a look at some of your charts and kind of get involved for about 10 minutes on this is one final question about this, you know, what is the perfect personality type, Doug? Is there a perfect personality for somebody, you know, in this? Is there the perfect trader, or is that also an illusion? Is it a sum of many different parts? Or what would be your opinion on that? Because, you know, I got to say to this, you're a disciplined guy. You see that in your previous careers and everything that you've done. Me, on the other hand, you know, I've been more disciplined later on in my life, but I'm more of a creative. You know, I'm more of a, hey, blue sky thinking, all that buzzword BS, right? You know, that you hear. But that was what I was brought up in the media industry. Whereas you're probably a lot more process driven. You know, you had to, you know, when you were serving. Is there a personality type, or is it a blend of a little bit of everything?
You know, that's a great question. And having, you know, traded for the amount of time that I have, I've met all different personality types. You know, I've met doctors, actors, bartenders, engineers, fighter pilots, you know, a sniper. I mean, gym owners. I mean, it's been a swath, right? And I think the one common characteristic that they all have is a ability to learn, a willingness to learn about themselves. And if that's a personality type, you know, I think, you know, that would be a common thread, is the ability to learn and to execute and to follow a process and to learn about themselves. Some people can do that. Some people, it takes a lot of pain to get to that point. But I think that was the common thread amongst them all, is that they learned enough about themselves and follow their process and trust in that to get to that point. I haven't really seen like we're all, you know, introverts, or, I mean, it's all over the map, right? I think it's a blend of everything that makes up an individual. We're each unique, and we each pull our own tools and techniques and everything that works for us and makes it work for us, or it doesn't, right? But I think we all have the willingness to try and to try to be better and to learn something new. That's definitely a commonality. We're all risk takers. You know,
my dad always said that if you're not willing to take a risk in life, you're going to spend your time serving and working for others who are willing to take a risk in life, you know?
So I think it's a hodgepodge of all of that, right? And, you know, the ones that can get honest with themselves about what they're doing right or wrong,
Yeah.
truly honest with themselves, not just, whatever. But yeah, I think that all those together make up somebody that can be successful and will be successful in trading. And plus the education, right? Like you can't just, hey, I'm going to buy Apple today, check back a week later and see what happens. Like you gotta have that education and trade with people that are of the like mind too. Surround yourself with people that are of like mind. So.
Yeah, this has been a dangerous time. I think, a lot of people just rushing into the market after COVID, being forced to work from home, and they got rewarded heavily by the huge surge we saw in the market from, April onwards, and now finding it tricky, especially after the stock splits we saw with Tesla and Apple as well. I mean, those things just haven't kind of recovered, but it has been, but, great to hear that insight. And I would say this is something that anyone can do, but you've got to go outside of your comfort zone, and if you want to experience something you've never experienced before, you've got to do something you've never ever done before, right? So it's great to hear that, and I think it's encouraging for many. So I wanted to share this as well, Doug. So this is just a little bit of action from you to today as well, what I'm going to go over. I'm just going to let you do a little screen share so we can see this, and I'm going to invite you to actually take a look as well. So this is actually a screenshot, maybe you can see this, Doug, of the live coaching community within the Stockability community that you're a member of. Great place, a great resource where we all kind of stay in touch with each other. I did a little post earlier on. I said, has anybody had any success today? Because I missed entries today. And I was like, did anybody have success today? And it was really funny. We got a nice little chain of people on here, when we were doing this, which was really interesting, of some people, getting their replies. So somebody's not loading up. But what really got me is some people saying, I missed my entries today. We're all looking at the same thing, right? And for some of the students, it was like, yeah, I missed my entries, but and I didn't get anything. A few other people were like, oh no, I did get something. I can view the thread right now. This should come up in the right-hand side. A couple of guys made a little bit of money. Giovanni did on here. RK Verba, Rob made a little bit of money. You can see on here on the Dow short, the long still have setups. And then a couple of us, I missed my entries too. I said, it's amazing on here, It's amazing how we all look at the markets from a similar approach, but get different results. Mate, that's the reality of it, right? In the meantime, you were looking at gold on here, and you were kind enough to actually publish some results on here for everybody to see on your account. Again, Doug, look, you got a $2,000 move there on, I believe that's silver.
Yeah.
A $930 move on gold. You're losing about $140 off of this one, and up about $69 on that. What I'm seeing, it's the ones that are red are small, the ones that are green are big, and so on as well. Now, is this kind of this is what you typed in the room to share with everybody.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. Is this something that, is a common occurrence for you? Do you and again, just being candid on here, or is that kind of just a once in a blue moon you get that? Or are you finding you're getting results like that fairly regularly? And do you have a goal? I mean, I guess you treat this like a business, like a profession. Do you have a goal and enough's enough, and then kind of like what you'll do then is you'll move on, Doug? Tell me how that works for you in that respect.
So I put a deposit down on a brand new Ford Bronco that comes out next year, and I'm currently trading towards that. Enough's enough. If I take 3 stop outs, I'll stop. But if I'm, the setups are there, I'm not going to say, hey, I've taken 3 trades, I'm not going to trade anymore. I've made $2,000 today, I'm not going to trade anymore. Like if my rules state, if my setup's there, I got to take it, right? Unless I've taken my max pain for the day and I've got to walk away to prevent that revenge trading. Gold's been moving perfectly for me recently. I'm grateful for it. Silver has been kind of in tune with gold. I had another trade that was very similar to that on, was it yesterday? They just moved in sync, and I saw the setup and I took both and made some good money on that as well. It's just been grateful. The setups have been there and they've been happening. I've been hitting my weekly goal in about a day of trading on a good day. Like today,
so that's what you have in is
that's my weekly goal. That's above my weekly goal. I mean, I don't really shoot for a goal, because I've also found in the past that if it's Thursday and I'm only halfway there, I start pushing it as opposed to waiting for my setups, right? Because I'm me and I like to jump in, and sometimes I am John J. Rambo with the big knife between my teeth, and I'm like, hear me roar, and then it's more of a whimper at the end of the day. So if the setup's there, I take it. If not, I'll go look at copper, or maybe take a look at the indices, because gold's pit is open in the morning an hour before the U.S. market share. And I love that, because owning a small business, or being a father of twins and all that, it enables me to get some trading in if it presents itself prior to my kids getting up or prior to the work day. And that to me is why another reason would just cause me to focus in on gold, is because there are moves that happen that set themselves up that you can be done by 8:30, 9:30. And if, the news works in your favor or other things, and it's just a momentum day, it can really take off.
Wonderful.
So,
two questions, and then I'd love to kind of do our feature with you,
sure.
if that's all right, Doug. So, two questions. Number one, do you find psychologically it's affected you as you've had more success? Do you find yourself getting greedy, want to up your size and think, hey man, $2,000 a day, I want to make $5,000 a day, $10,000 a day? And how do you handle that? The second question is, you mentioned your twin daughters, which I've been fortunate enough to see the pins. How much do you think it's going to be as they get older, you introducing them to this, like your father introduced you to this, and,
Sure.
and what are your hopes for them in that respect?
So to the first question, another thing I learned from you all at Stockability was to pay myself. Before, I love video games, and I don't know if I'm the only person that ever did this.
I love video games. I'm with you on that.
Yeah, and I treated it almost like a video game where I'm just trying to get a high score and accumulate, and it's like, well, what am I doing it for? And then you get cocky or whatnot, and you just get pummeled. And it was like, okay, it finally dawned on me that yes, this is a business, and yes, I do need to pay myself. So I've been paying myself every week. I just took money out, transferred it in. I paid my rent. I've got extra to go towards my truck that I'm gonna pay for cash next year in May, I hope, and that's the goal. And slowly growing my trading account out as well at the same time, with even taking money out. But I try not to get it more than double without taking money out, just because what's the point? Like, is it, am I really going to add 4 contracts on gold and trade it? I'm doing just fine, and I'm content. I'm happy doing 1 to 2 contracts. Silver, I'm just, I guess I'm a wimp, but that's a widowmaker. If it goes against you, like, it can be a bad day real quick. But I know it's 1 contract on that. I might start trading the micros. I just want to see how they look on it, but
sure.
Yeah, I just been a good week thus far. So, I mean, what was it? 2 weeks ago, I had 3 losing days, but I still broke even for the week. But I mean, that's not a bad drawdown, right? So
that's it. It's that risk management. And again, that's the discipline. That's the areas where it is. And I love what you just said there. I've been fortunate to be around a lot of traders over the years, and some of the guys who worked on the Chicago pits as well. And they said there were some guys who stuck to a size, like their thing was, 10 contracts or 5 contracts. And that's just what they did all their life. They didn't think about increasing size. Psychologically, they were at that point. That was their tipping point. And when they went over it, they started to deviate. And, if you're having days like that for the rest of your life and you never ever do any more than that, you're probably, it's not about the money, it's about the freedom. And I'm amazed you get to do, the things that you get to, like travel and, and all that kind of stuff, and seeing, and on that subject as well, the girls, any plans to kind of like introduce them? How important do you think it is to them just to see what daddy does, and then, show them what is possible as well? Because the world's changing, right?
It is. It's going way more computer oriented even now. They do sit in my lap when I'm trading in the morning sometimes. Actually, on Tuesday was the first time typing on a keyboard. So we were writing little notes on a keyboard. They're always liking to play with the mouse and stuff. But they sit on my lap. I talk to them a little bit about it. They see me doing it every morning. When it's not daddy-daughter time for breakfast or something like that. But got to make that time and take, kids are important, right? And I want to make time for that. But they're very curious as to what I am doing on the computer and the bright, shiny colors with the reds and the whites and the greens and, all of that, and why they caught me the other day going like this to the gold trade. I was just blowing on it to make it go up. Like, whatever, you got to make it fun. But
that's great.
It works sometimes it doesn't. I haven't quite found the rhythm on that yet. But I want for them what I wanted for myself. And I think a lot of people in general, it's one of those things that everybody kind of wants, is that freedom. And what does that mean for each individual? What's that why behind it? But I would love them to know how to fish in the markets and to trade and to have the ability to make money no matter what's going on, whether they're just having a bad time getting a job or, the economy's tanking. This is how you do it, and this is how you can manage your money and grow so you don't have to be afraid. I think that's one nice thing through all of this too, is like I haven't, with businesses and everything going on, like I haven't necessarily had to be afraid about anything, because I know how to make money because I've been taught the right way.
It's a wonderful thing. These are such strange times, aren't they, Doug? Yet, you know,
Yeah,
this has been a wonderful time not to have that stress as well. It's a beautiful thing. It's never about the money. It's about the freedom and the time. So
exactly.
thank you for sharing that. So we do a feature when Dan and Dan, like I say, he's having a little bit of a break. He's got friends in town and so on. So I was like, you know, and we've moved to the new, this is our new time slot, everybody, by the way. So we're actually here, just so everybody knows, this is our brand new time slot that we have now. Thursdays, 12 noon Eastern, to around 1 o'clock, sometimes 12:45. It depends if you get a couple of chatter boxes on the show, like Doug and I, who can easily fill the show talking about all this other stuff as well. But we won't be going longer than the hour. But yeah, every Thursday now at noon, Take Stock Live will be here on Facebook Live, and then restreamed. The recording, you can catch it if you didn't get it live, and you are looking at this now and you didn't get in live as well. We are restreaming on our YouTube Stockability channel as well, where you can also post your questions and comments. I'm getting everybody coming in. Good to see you, Clyde Jean, Brian Hannaford joining us from Dubai right now, Rob Pellegrin out in California as well. It's a great way. And if you have your comments and things that you've got on the show, best way to watch us is Facebook Live right now, where you can actually get us in real time. This is real. This is live. This is happening as we speak as well. That's why it's called Take Stock Live too. But again, feel free to pass your questions on through the YouTube channel as well if you have anything that you want us to answer that way. A regular feature on the show since we started this thing about 4 or 5 weeks ago was Your Call, My Put, where we actually go up to the charts and myself and the guest decide what we're bullish on. That means we think the thing's going to go up, or what we're bearish on. We think the thing's going to go down. As your regular host of the show, I've always been an absolute English gentleman, as you can probably tell. That is where my accent is from. And I've always given my guests the choice, which has always caught me on the spot, because if I'm not prepared, I don't know. It might be that, you know, I've got a bullish play, and then Doug comes on here, and guess what? He's going to do the bearish play. So, Doug, here's what I'm going to say to you, my friend, on here. As the guest of the show, your call is if you've got something you think is going to go up, and the put will be obviously think it's going to go down. What one are you taking? Are you taking the bullish or the bearish play today? And we're going to do a little analysis and let you bring up the charts.
I'll take the bullish play.
Mm.
Why not?
Okay,
Why not?
you're bringing the bullish.
I'm a Taurus anyways, man, so I would be against my grain to go there.
All right, my friend. Well, then, go on. Feel free to share your screen. I think the
All
viewers
right.
would love to see your screen on here as well. And Andy Bunn's just saying, thank you, Ranger Doug. Real helpful info. I mean, I think it's great to have people who are doing it. You're welcome,
Yes.
Andy. Great. And thank you for viewing the show as well and taking a look. So let's take a look. What do you got? You've got your gold futures up here as well. So this can be an opportunity, a short term. I like to do it something that can be a longer term that you're thinking maybe over the next week or so. What are you feeling, Doug? You're going to take the bearish play, your put, right?
I was going to take well, here's the weekly chart on gold, right?
You're going to take the bullish play. That's right. I'm just trying to squirm out of doing the bearish play.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
You pay attention. You're a military man. You pay attention. All right, bullish play. What are you thinking about here, Doug?
Thinking about, all right, well, for this, we are running up into resistance. However, it's on a corrective move. On a weekly, it came back down, corrected, and it has had a strong week pushing back up. So I think that momentum is going to continue. Over the past few days, it's been strong moves moving to the upside. I think also with regards to things coming up down the pike, you know, in November here in the States with I think the volatility coming in might cause it to go back up a little bit. I'm more of a technical analysis, but it's just, you know, how people are in gold, the gold bugs.
Oh yeah, they're there, right?
Yeah, I've been bullish on it for the past week and some change, so it's been paying well for me, as you can see here. Anyways, not too bad. So I'm going to continue with that until the chart tells me something different. So that's where I'm at.
Awesome. I was really wanting to say, I'd like the analysis on here. I was really trying to on gold and, you know, looking to get that about the $1,800 mark. And I think it's still got it in it. But again, maybe another leg down before it gets. I can't write off gold, Doug. I don't know about you. I can't write that thing off. I really, really can't. For me, it's been, it's still got plenty of life left in the beast yet as it stands as well. So great. All right. Well, if you take your screen down, I will share mine now with the group as well.
Sure.
And here we go. I'll bring up my round. This is going seamless, this technology here, Doug. I'm blown away. You should be able to see my charts right now that I've got up here. Hopefully that's all broadcasting here. I'm actually looking at Disney. I'm a big Disney fan. I love Disney. But I got to say to you right now, I'm seeing more downside on Disney. I'd love your take on this right now. I think that, what's been interesting about this Disney is we're right now, again, I always have to start my analysis on the weekly charts when I'm looking at all of this. And right now, what I'm seeing on these charts is price kind of trapped. And you've got this big unfilled gap area that I'm looking at here. But I'm also looking at a ton of wide open space as well, much lower, where there's another gap here. And I didn't think we could be further in the middle right now. If you actually take a look at this chart, last couple of weeks on this market, very indecisive, what we're seeing on Disney. Right now, not a lot to do on Disney. But I'm looking at this, and again, I'm feeling to myself, when I've seen on these monthly charts right now, we're in the middle here. I see, right now, just a little bit more weakness coming into this market. And it's more... It's a short-term bearishness that I see, because we've got one of the things we love explaining. We were just talking about these in class last night in our income abilities class. I can never resist when I see one of these things. You know what these are, Doug? These fade gaps. Yeah. And I'm more bearish on Disney in the short term because I want to see it come down, because I actually would like to buy it around this gap area here as well. I can't write Disney off. And I think this is a short-term play on here to the upside that I'd really, really like to see on it. But the market does need some weight. But there's also some really good opportunities on here a little bit lower, especially also around this monthly area that I'd like to share with everybody watching right now. We've got a very strong monthly area, this 120 to this 107 area. So I'm kind of cheating here, really. Like, I'm bearish on it at the moment because I feel like I want it to come down. Okay, and what I do see is a lot of short-term pressure on this market if we get up. So again, let me show you how I'm looking at this right now. I'm seeing on here an unfilled gap to the upside, and I'm seeing an unfilled gap to the downside. So in my ideal scenario would have me looking, Doug, a little bit like some price action of, here we go, pushing to this upside on here, and then breaking to the downside, where then I'd expect a little bit more upside. I can't write it off, but short term, seeing a little bit of weakness in this market right now. Again, I don't go into the old kind of technical analysis stuff too much. I'm more of a kind of a horizontal price levels kind of guy. But again, when I do look at this, I can see myself, just seeing a little bit of kind of a trickling down, in this market, a little bit of a wedge forming, like kind of a descending triangle kind of pattern on that as well. So again, I would say short-term shorts for a long-term long on Disney. Agree, disagree? This is a show where we have an open mind. We can all say what we want to say. What are your thoughts on that, Doug?
I agree. I think it would be sweet if it could fill that upper gap and then fill the lower one and rock it up,
I also looking at around the price level. I would say to everybody in the room right now, just looking at this on this chart, especially now from last month, we're in a brand new month. This price level here, let's call it around $124 for me, is a pretty big area. If we trade below that, we are heading back to the downside. And that's where I see this 115 bounce at the moment. If we can hold this 124 area, then I'm probably wrong. We're going to go higher. But right now, going to be looking at how this month plays out, especially if we stay below this 124 area, guys. I'd expect a little bit more downside on that. And then getting us back into kind of nearer that gap around the 115, which would line up very nicely to where we've got kind of some nice buying opportunity around here. And then also getting us into some nice buying opportunity where that unfilled gap is as well. But all eyes on that for right now. That 124 price level for me, pretty strong number on that. If we can't hold that, wouldn't be surprised to see that, and that would help push that down. We may not get the retracement back up to this 127 area. Like I say, ideal world would be great if it does this, but guys, I have to say I'm more of a willing buyer when we get back down to this area here. So that's my outlook on that. Gold on the upside for you, Disney on the downside short term right now as well. So question from Brian Hannaford here. Doug, what sort of stop do you use on gold? I've got time for a couple more questions before we get to the top of the hour, and I'll bring my screen down and we can talk a little bit about that.
So do you want me to share my screen again? Would that
Absolutely.
help?
Why not? Go for it,
All
my
right.
friend. Technology allows us to do it, so let's do it.
Will you let me know when you're good to go?
Absolutely. You are broadcasting. Here we go.
Outstanding. So I try not to use more than about a $200, $250 stop. I can go over real quickly kind of what I look at. I always, in the mornings when I wake up, check the news and everything. I always mark off where the London low was in the London Open, because price for gold at least seems to always want to go back there. Yesterday it did it, took that up, and today it did it, and I took this one up, and it was basically the same trade on silver. I got in right here, and my stop was down below here. below 1900. So it was a $200, $250 risk for over, so yeah, for $1,000 gain.
That 5 to 1, 4 to 1, 5 to 1.
Yeah,
Is it? Do you have a minimum risk to reward ratio that you look for?
minimum of 3 to 1. If it can't do that, the trade's not there. If I'm running into resistance or support, that kind of thing, I'm not going to hop in on it because it's not worth it, right? You can do a lot of 1-to-1 trades, or you can do 1 or 2 5-to-1 trades a week and be done. I'd rather do the latter personally.
Yeah.
And every morning this happens. It comes back, tests the low of the London Open area, and then it comes back up or it goes down, right? So I'm always marking that on my charts, and that's what I watch for. And the opportunity presented itself twice this morning, and very grateful for that. I mean, this was the news that came out in the morning, right? And it drove it up.
Yep.
And then it had a little consolidation, popped down and said nope, and it just popped right back up. And that was a beautiful entry. I can go to a smaller chart and show you. Where are we at? Down here. Came down, formed a pattern, it retested it.
Yep. And
then just took off. It broke right here, right? I got in right about here, and the stop was down here, and it took off. 17.4 was my target. So
beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Thank you for sharing that, my friend. Absolutely
yes,
love that. So we can actually we can actually kind of like take a look at these and great for sharing. If you want to take your screen down, that'd be great. Sure. There, Doug. Just if anybody who's just joining us right now as well and just saw literally Doug's screen right there, what I can show you on this is that what Doug's talking about is a trade that he got in this morning as well. And I showed this to the group earlier on as well, if you're just joining us, which is really, really nice. In our live community, there is the trade that he was talking about right here. At that time, he said it was about $250. It was about $250, wasn't it? $250 risk on, or $200 risk on the trade, but you got yourself a nice kind of $1,000 move out of that as well, about 4 to 1. I mean, absolute monster on that silver one as well. You are a brave man trading silver, by the way. I've never been.
I only took $50 heat too on the gold one. I was like, all right. I mean, that's not bad out of all of that.
I only went $50 against you. I mean, that's the beautiful thing about it that you can actually see on here. Only $50 against you on that particular move that we can see on that. If I just zoom in for the chart, so one more time so everybody can see that. Yeah, look, only $50. Oh wow, it zoomed in an awful lot there. But yeah, look, $50 against you. 9:30 at the time of doing this. 0 against it on that 2025. Great. It's great to see that real time kind of stuff going on in the room, guys. I love to see that as well. So what does the rest of your day look like, Doug? And we'll kind of wrap this up. What is the rest of the day? Because obviously a lot of the work's done for you for the day right now. So tell me, what is the rest of the day for Doug?
Rest of the day for Doug is take my girls to the pool, hang out outside, get some lunch, then go take care of myself, go for a run or do something later, and then look at the charts, maybe at the end just to see what happened the rest of the day. But I try to get out from behind the computer and enjoy, this creation and everything that it has, right?
And hopefully catch the recording of my last day of my class today as well.
Oh yeah, I've been watching them at night, man. I got back from my trip late Monday night at midnight and woke up and got my girls at 6:30 in the morning. So I've been doing that. So it's been.
I got a little extra thing I'm sharing in the class as an extra bonus for you as well. So you'll want to be checking that out when we do our income abilities. Doug, can I say thank you so much for taking time out of your day to join us on TakeStock Live? I think everybody here has enjoyed it as well. We've loved the questions. We've loved the candidness. You've just been open as well. I'd love to have you back on the show as well. I can see a spot for you on this show, man.
Oh, man, that'd be great. I thank you so much for having me here. It's been great, and I've loved it, man. It's been a really cool experience, and, I hope everybody enjoyed it. So.
Absolutely. Doug, thank you so much, everybody. That was Ranger Doug, who joined us on TakeStock Live there as well, and being a student working for a while on here as well with us. Great to have him on the show. An absolute, like I say, breath of fresh air. I love it what you just said on there, Bob, as well. Breath of fresh air. Real great to have him on the show here as well. So thank you, Doug. Guys, thank you as well. We're at the top of the hour right now. So this has been a really fun show. I've really enjoyed everything we've done on the show today as well. It's great to get that. And we're going to have more students, more guests coming up on TakeStock Live. As I mentioned earlier on, the new time is is Thursdays, 12 noon Eastern time here on Facebook Live. Please share, please like it, and share it with your friends. We love real-time comments where we can look at markets in real time with you, give you our analysis as well. Next week, we'll be doing a little bit more of this as well. Louise, good to see you on here as well. Thank you. It's great to have the viewers coming in. If you do need anything you want to do, you can always reach us at these different areas here. You can actually get to us at stockability.com. TakeStock the live is powered by stockability.com. You can email us at support@stockability. You can also register for our newsletters as well. Other great ways to stay in touch, but more importantly, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and all the usual social media handles as well. And obviously get those questions in. The more on here, we'll be checking Facebook. We'll be checking also YouTube as well. Almost forgot the name of it there when we put the recording up a little bit later as well. Guys, I've been Sam Evans. That was Ranger Doug. This is Take Stock Live. Have a wonderful rest of your day. I'll see you next week live for the next edition. Have a fantastic week and enjoy your weekend. Thank you, everybody.